School in the Dudley Charlton School District. And he is the principal finalist for Pioneer Valley Regional School. He's had a very busy day. He's been meeting with different groups of staff. He met with the kids. Everybody should be so proud of our kids. I'm sure Bill will talk to you about his experience. They made their list of questions. They comported themselves beautifully. So he is here for an open forum, questions and answers. I will invite Bill to give a little spiel about his interest in the district, and then we'll ask questions. Great, thank you, Bill.
So do I need to stand in certain places?
No, you're good.
I'm a walker, right? I walk around. Okay, so thank you for coming. Thank you for those at home that are watching. I'm happy to be here. My name is Bill Chaplin. I am the current principal at Shepherd Hill. I've had a wonderful day here on campus in terms of meeting people and walking around, seeing the building, seeing the campus. I was able to shoot out and have a break with my cousin who lives in Greenfield, had dinner with her, and then just came back here. So I became principal at Shepherd Hill 6 years ago. It was the only job I applied for that year. And I was at a point in my career where I was ready to take on. I was assistant principal at King Philip for 3 years, and 4 years before that, I was an adjustment counselor at the King Philip Middle School. So I had the wonderful, I've said this to every group that I've had today, even the students, I've had the wonderful experience of following my 7th graders. That first year I started all the way through 12th grade as their assistant principal, started as an adjustment counselor. And it was the best experience. I still am in touch with those students right now. They're all lawyers and teachers, and they're the class of 2016. And if that Shepherd Hill job opened up a year before, I wouldn't have applied for it because I was sticking with that group, that class, all the way through. I was committed to that. So that year, Shepherd Hill was at a crossroads as well. They were looking for, they are a strong traditional school, but needed someone to kind of nudge them in their kind of modern, innovative lens. I was fortunate, the superintendent at the time, his name was Greg Desto, I was fortunate enough to be hired. I was also the first person in 32 years there where I was an outsider coming in to take the principal seat. The previous 32 years, there was someone inside. And they were looking for that. They were looking for that. That superintendent was looking for that specifically. So I began there in July 2016, and for the past 6 years, it's been a wonderful experience working with wonderful educators and educational leaders, and really kind of opened up that modern lens, particularly around innovation. Early on, we became a innovation pathway school, where we have 2 tracks right now of biomedical science and manufacturing and engineering. And I wrote those grants to get that designation. We were one of 11 schools that in the whole state of Massachusetts that year, because I knew it would open doors, and it would create wonderful learning experiences and enhance the learning experiences for students inside and outside the classroom. Gotten probably once we got that designation, well over $500,000 in grants and resources that we were able to apply for and get just because we were an innovation pathway school. So at that point, I didn't come in and make massive change. That first year I did a lot of listening. I learned about the community because I didn't live in the community, and really learned from students, from staff, from the community members around what they really were looking for. And we charted out a kind of roadmap. They wanted more expansion of their classes that they had, and really kind of that modern lens that you keep alluding to. That first year, again, did a lot of listening, and really learned about the community and the culture there. And then started kind of mapping out, getting buy-in from people around how they want to see things change. This is my second career, I should say. You've got my resume there, you can look at it. My first part of my career was in mental health. I ran community mental health centers. I'm a licensed independent clinician in the state of Massachusetts still. So I bring that lens to within my leadership in all that I do, really. That collaborative leader, the relational leader, and really, one of my kind of main values, really true, is my ability to empathize for myself and relationships. That's something that's always benefited me as a leader, no matter where I was. So I bring that here in this process, in my style of leadership. I had a really wonderful day meeting with stakeholders here, staff. My favorite part of the day was obviously the students. And they had wonderful questions for me, and I had some questions for them. And they were really open and honest, and it was really nice. It was one of my best hours here today. Some of the questions I got today, why you leaving Shepherd Hill and why you coming here? Why here? So before someone asks that, I'm going to answer it. So the last couple of years with the pandemic has really kind of put a lot of educators and leaders and parents and students and communities through the ringer. And I'm sure you can tell a little bit now, I'm an optimist, really positive, everything that I do. That pushed me to my limit. End of July, beginning of August of 2020, totally crushed when I had to cancel my graduation, an outdoor graduation. I had about 300 students graduating that year, and we had already done a lot of great stuff with them before that. The end of school year parades, anything we could do, we did. Lawn signs, everyone was doing lawn signs, delivering lawn signs. And my son was not at my school, but my son was a graduate then in 2020, so I knew what they were losing. Okay, I was feeling it, and everyone was feeling it. So we had got through that phase, and I said, anybody who wants to cross the stage, I'm gonna set it up outside on our turf field. We're gonna plan something. Once we go a little bit further out into the summer, so I planned it out. I had probably about 80 to 100 students sign up. We want to attend. Awesome. So 2 days before, I'm setting up my final communication. Everything's all set. We're going. My phone rings. It's my superintendent. And he says, I just saw your communication. I said, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I can't wait. It's going to be a special moment. He goes, you have to cancel it. Harvard Public Health just squashed it. There's an uptick somewhere, and we have to cancel it. I'm like, I didn't know what to say, and he knew that too when he was there. So I just had the communication out. It breaks my heart, but this is what we had to do. And many parents were upset, not at me, at what happened, because there was a lot of neighboring towns that were having the same thing I was doing, that they hadn't. No one shut them down. Okay, so I took a couple weeks off. First time in my life I took X amount of days off because I needed to kind of recharge my batteries and kind of get a refocus. It's important to point out that during that time I was 328 pounds, big guy. And after that 2 weeks happened, I said I am focusing on my health, self-care, and I'm going to model that to my students, and I'm going to model that to my staff, and I'm going to model that all over the place. And over the last X amount of months, almost 2 years, 15 months or so, 198 pounds today. Wow. But I bring that up because I'm going to connect it to my focus on wellness, my focus on self-care has rippled into my community. I modeled that. So during that time, I was a lot of energy, I think I was optimistic before. I thought I was a great leader before, 328 pounds. I'm an even greater leader now, lighter, tons of more energy, tons of more focus. So when that happened, Shepherd Hill offered me a third contract, and I declined it. I was in such a good place with myself, and talking with my wife and whatnot. I said, you know what, I am so energized right now. I do want to go somewhere else. I want to take the risk and go somewhere else and rebuild again, help a community kind of build up again, like I did at Shepherd Hill. So that's why I told my bosses in January. They offered me the contract, I declined, and said, I want you to have time to find someone to replace me. And then I saw this position. When I was originally posted, I looked into it. I have a family in Greenfield, and my gut instinct is telling me that in the next 3 to 5 years, wonderful, great things are going to happen here. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to grow and to build something. And that's why I applied. I applied originally, and then when I came in, that's why I'm here today. So that kind of answers that question: why now, and why are you leaving? So today was a wonderful day. I walked around the campus, walked around the building. You have many things that my school doesn't have. And I'm looking forward to kind of field the questions and anything that you might have in terms of questions you have about me. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Okay, go ahead.
First, where did you go to dinner?
Luckily, I had my cousin in Greenfield, and
Yeah.
she cooked on the grill.
Oh, all right.
We didn't go out.
Darn it, I wanted to see where you
I am hearing about this ice cream place though.
The craving.
Oh, yeah.
He had Sweet Lucy's come on, he had a
Oh.
salad.
I did.
with Sweet Lucy's.
Very good. Very
I'm
good.
thinking about
People's Plans, another pictures. Anyway, and then my second question is, you were saying that the superintendent wanted fresh eyes, somebody innovative. How did the staff receive an outsider coming in?
So that was a process. So again, my style, they were fearful of what's this guy going to come in and do, and that's not my style at all. I went in and I learned about that. I listened a lot. That summer, I had a listening tour. I made a 100-day plan. This is what you can expect from me in the first 100 days, starting July 1st. There was a lot of listening to students, had pizza, staff, community members, school committee, across the board. And I just listened. So what do you want? Now, in my Shepherd Hill, about 45% of the staff graduated from Shepherd Hill. It's wonderful. Their investment and so forth. It's not so wonderful in some ways, okay? Because when I go in there, I start thinking outside the box. It's not the way we do it. It's not the way we've ever done it here in the last 50 years. So I'm okay with hearing that. I said, but what if? What if? Okay. So so I just listened a lot, and I made some little changes. Okay, with buy-in. Okay, for people. So when I first walked into, I was telling Chris graduated from Shepherd Hill. When I walked in there, when I walked in the library, it was like Hogwarts. Okay, floor to ceiling books. There was probably 40,000 books in there. It was dark. It wasn't a great place to hang out. So I quickly, by Halloween, had all the bookshelves were half. You could see across the way. There was light coming in. We probably have like 8,000 books there. But I hired a wonderful library and media specialist and made it into the space it is today. It was a wonderful living space where people just go and hang out and develop it. So that was one thing I did really, really quickly. The other thing was another simple thing. In my this is silly, but I'm going to say it anyways. In my discussion with some of the staff, one of the staff said, "Hey, listen, I teach on the 3rd floor. And every time I have to come down to the copiers on the 1st floor, there's 5 copiers down there." So I'm like, okay, I said, hey, that's going to stink. I hear you. Next day, I moved 2 copiers, one on the 2nd floor, one on the 3rd floor. They thought I was the best thing since sliced bread. A simple little thing like that. And I was like, all right, was it technology? You just had to plug the thing in. Was there a drop there? I did that, and it was like, so that bought me a little bit of time. Okay. Then, by the end of my first year, I said, I'm going to take a chance, take a little risk. Okay. I said, I gathered people during the staff meeting. I said, hey, anyone want to talk about the master schedule? Okay. So I've said this over and over again today. No one in principal school told me that never bring up the master schedule in the first year that you're there. It's like touching the 3rd rail of a subway. Okay. So they're like, you can't, what do you mean? And I honestly couldn't understand the schedule. I was there a year. It was a 14-day schedule, 7 days rotated, nothing dropped, odd even days. okay. I said, all right. I said, so I learned about it. It's okay. We've always done it. And my assistant principal that I have graduated from Shepherd Hill, been there, was a guidance counselor, then moved up to the assistant principal. And he's wonderful. He's very, very, very close friend of mine right now. He would say, yeah, well, what else is there? I'm like, what else is there? So part of my lens was to kind of open up the bubble a little bit, okay, and say, what about this? So I gathered people, and I said, and I had to have the naysayers there. I wanted them there because part of my style is, what I've learned over the last decade, is that everyone has to be in the room. And I used to shy away from the naysayers 10 years ago. I don't want, they're gonna cause problems, they're gonna be professional. I don't do that anymore, because I want that diversity of thought. Okay, the world is the smartest person as far as I'm concerned. So now I'm much more comfortable with 10 years later, and I was comfortable here. Come on in. Even 6 years ago, let's come on and talk about it. So we talked about it. I said, oh, there's things we can do. Knowing in the back of my mind, my strategy was eventually I want to be able to introduce internships and capstone projects down the road. And how are we going to fit that in the schedule when it's like this? So I heard loud and clear, Bill, you really shouldn't. Let's not do this now. Let's just not do it. And you know what? I said, okay, no problem. I said, I hear you loud and clear. We're not going to change anything. So knowing that strategically, I was going to keep thinking about this and how I could get some buy-in and do little incremental changes. I will tell you, the staff, after I had done that, which is getting to the heart of your question, came up to me and said, we really appreciate you not bulldozing this. And we really appreciate it. I said, of course, well, I'm not gonna, that's not who I am. So we pulled back. They were really appreciative. And it's still a 14-day schedule, okay? 7 periods, hasn't changed. There's no more odd even. I've opened up some stuff in there, but it's still that. I wasn't gonna mess with it. So you come, it's okay. We do have internships and capstones now. I'll probably share that a little later. But that's my style. I'm collaborative. I'm relational. It's the way I've always been, because that's the way I want to be treated, and whatever team I'm on. So I think that helps in terms of a new person coming in or an outsider coming in, knowing that and giving time. But then in that schedule, one of the first things I kind of looked at was this odd even thing. I couldn't understand it, and I wrote in, because the majority of those odd evens was facilitated by PE. Okay, so our PE teachers would have different kids on different days, and it would be a half-year class that was spread out throughout the whole year. So I said, what if we made PE every day, whole semester? And we started talking about it, and the PE teacher's like, yeah, I like that idea. Because it's hard knowing who's coming and who's not every other day and all year. And this way, we could also, students that want to get through their PE requirements can do it in 3 semesters and be done with it, and then fill all the other electives they want to do, or double up in science, or do this, or do whatever. So I brought that out. Science teacher goes, double up in science? I like that. PE says, I love that. And so we did that kind of right away, probably in the end of the second year. And that's what they love it. Okay. So little things like that, but I had to get some buy-in. I had to kind of move around and kind of let them kind of think like it was their idea. So that's kind of my style in terms of change. My clinical history really kind of does strengthen my leadership in terms of just understanding someone else's point of view. Whether it's a student, parent, teacher, staff, whoever. And when I say teacher, staff, it's anybody in the building. I'm just as close to my custodians, my lunch ladies, my teachers, my support staff. So, does that answer your question?
That was nice.
Okay. Who else? Come on. Who else has a question?
No, go ahead, sir.
I was curious about your approach to disciplinary issues. I know there's been some work on restorative justice in this community,
Sure.
but also just
Yep.
curious about your experience.
Yeah. So a lot of experience. Okay. My philosophy on this is if you treat discipline so black and white, then why not have robots do it? Okay. We can't, because you know what? It's not that black and white. There has to be some type of a relationship in that process where you have to hold kids accountable to their choices and decisions and create teachable moments. Absolutely every time. but it doesn't have to be with a stick. It doesn't have to be with, so that relationship that you have with students. So when I was assistant principal, I did a lot of discipline. I do less now. I do some now. But it's always based on relationship. Help me understand what's going on. Okay, whatever it is, consistently tardy, whatever. My most successful kind of discipline has been around, help me understand what's the deal is. You had a bad moment, okay? Do your consequence. It's in our rearview mirror. We move on, okay? Now, there's not a lot of discipline, that I encounter. There's some spurts of it that happen, but I also know as a human that we all have bad moments, okay? But we're pretty consistent. I've rewritten my handbook probably 3 or 4 times over the last few years and added things and taken things out with student voice, with teacher voice, and so forth. But I think you have to be consistent. Say what you're going to do in that handbook, okay? But you don't have to. The relationship piece is absolutely crucial in that. I'll give you 2 quick examples. When I was at King Philip as an assistant principal, I do discipline. I can see the kid right in front of me. I know his name. His name was Cam. Consistently tardy, constantly tardy. So I call him down. I said, Cam, you're going to come out see me. So he comes to my office. And he talks about, comes in. I say, Cam, how you doing? It's a good day, bad day. What's going on? I said, I got to talk about your tardies, man. You got like 15 in a row here. What's going on? He goes, Mr. Chaplain, let me help you understand. He goes, when I'm tardy, just to let you know, I'm missing more time out of my class right now here talking to you than I am when I'm tardy. Because we have a homeroom system. I said, Cam, you know what? You're right. Get out of here. He's a lawyer today.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, if I didn't have a relationship with him, okay, I wouldn't have been able to do that. But I also hear where people are coming from. The other example I'll give you is I had a student similar to KP, and he was consistently late, getting into a lot of other things. His worst days were Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. He just couldn't get in. His grades were suffering. He was kind of being difficult with staff and so forth. So I gravitate towards these kids. Okay, I say, hey, what's going on? So in our talking, not just once, but over a period of time, I learned that he is a street performer in Boston at Faneuil Hall, and is wonderful at it. Okay, I think what do they call it? Parkour. It was a gymnastics thing. Okay, so he's working all weekend, constantly there. Okay, comes back and it's really hard for him to get back into the swing of things. Okay, I get it. Understand where you're coming from. What can I do to help? You got it. This is what you got to do. I'll do my 50%. But what are you going to do differently? So little by slow, he got better. Okay. By the way, he's traveled around the world. He's on the Red Bull team now. He's performed halftime with the Celtics. No one would have known that if they didn't ask and have a relationship. Okay. Another one at Shepherd Hill. I find out similar kind of behavior stuff. Really struggling. I realized after a while that he's working the overnight shift at the dollar store stocking shelves because he has to work. I get it. So how can I help that situation and reduce whatever's going on? That's my approach. But you never get there until you ask the question. Okay. Sometimes parents are difficult around it. You can't see. Well, same approach. Help me understand. How can I help? What can I do? And sometimes it's not right in pass. Sorry, accountability. That's what it says. That's what you gotta do. But guess what? After you do this, it's over. We'll put it in our rearview mirror. That's what you need to do differently. And move on, teachable moment, move on. So and there's a lot of ways of thinking around restorative justice and so forth. I don't think I've ever been a person suspended. Because if they're just suspended, they're home on video playing video games, nothing's going on there. I'd rather do something within the school, keep them in here, keep momentum going.
I'll probably have several
That's okay.
questions. So, so I'm on the select board, trying to spend more time over on this side of the river.
Sure.
Because Northfield is split. And actually, I'm also on the historical commission, so we are one of the few, I think we're the only town in New England that exists on both sides of the river. And it's been like that for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It creates some challenges, right? And I think for me being in town, so town hall's on the other side of the river, I wanted to spend more time over here and understanding the schools, even though we don't have any control over it. Obviously, we have to pay the bill. And I don't have children. I have nephews who are now in their 20s and 30s who have gone through the school system. So I'm just trying to spend more time over here and understand how schools have changed. I spent a lot of time in my early career in college admissions and financial aid. So just kind of updating what my experience was in high schools as a professional going in, just to give you a little background. And I think one question that has come up for the select board, and we've spent a lot of time this past year on policing. We have a new chief of police.
Sure.
We have folks on the select board who have some sort of either law enforcement training or law enforcement education. And I'm just curious about your experience with school resource officer and how you, I mean, I know what it is from a town standpoint,
Sure.
A town government standpoint. How do you view it, given the things that you've already described, you know, with respect to discipline? How do you envision an SRO working in the school, you know, this year? This time frame,
Sure.
especially with police reform.
So I'm always, in my role at King Philip as assistant principal, I was always, almost always attached to the SRO in that building full time.
Okay.
And we were like freaking frack. Okay. And my building now, I have a wonderful officer from the W Police Department who comes in, and he's part of my administration team. Okay. He's part of my team that I meet with all the time. And the way I view it is that both of those gentlemen were, everything that they do every single day pays dividends down the road, okay? Because they're building relationships with kids. So when they do see them in the community, hey, I know that, and vice versa. So if something's going on in the community, he can let me know, okay? We text all the time, okay? So my view of an SRO in a school, not as a they're not really disciplinarians. They're just an adjunct to us. Now, if there's a crime committed, it's wonderful having him there because he can go through kind of the process. Okay? But that doesn't happen often. It really doesn't. Someone steals an iPhone or whatever or whatnot. It's also nice to have him as a partner. Okay. And our chief of police in both of my schools districts that I've worked in have been wonderful because they value that because they know it pays dividends. And the dividends is around the back to the relationship. Okay, he has so many relationships in the school, and so we have a middle school on the same campus, that Dudley Middle School. And he'll go down there, and he knows whatever he builds down there, we'll build when those kids come up here. Okay, because his siblings is out, all of this. And there are a few that look at him differently, but he's not walking around like he's a sheriff. He's walking around like he's part of my administrative team, building a relationship with kids, checking in with them. Kids go to him and say, I'm having this issue at home. What's going on? And then he'll pull me in, or pull one of my adjustment counselors in, pull one of my assistant principals in, and we'll hash it through. There are times where we've had students that kind of disappear, okay, and they're chronically out. Okay, no matter what we do, we're not getting a response. So we go through the process and issue a letter. But I know I can send, his name's Phil, I know I can send Phil and do a well check. And he would go and do it. Okay, and he'd look into it. The flip side of that is we had an awful fire about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, in Dudley, right on the Dudley Webster line. And so I see it on the news. I text Phil, any of my kids at this address, I think there's a kindergartner there, which is in the district. And I think there's one of my students is there. He goes, hold on. Makes a few phone calls. He goes, yeah, no one's in the building. Everyone's safe. They're all out. They're doing okay. That's instant access. Okay. The other thing is, tragically, there was a car accident where someone passed away. I know I can do the same exact thing. Phil, I just read this article on W. This just happened 6 hours ago. 17-year-old was involved. Was one of my students because they don't print the name. No, not one of your students. They live somewhere else. Okay. All right. So that kind of access and that kind of collaboration, unbelievable.
And if I can ask a follow-up, how
Yeah.
do you see, and this is also for my own edification,
Sure.
how do you see?
And I pay for half his salary.
Right.
Okay.
How do you see an SRO fitting into the curriculum / educational piece?
So, I know both my SROs at Kingfield and at Shepherd Hill, did do some spot, going to the health class, talking about vaping,
Yeah.
but not in curriculum. Now, I have had, when I was in the middle school, Kingfield Middle School, we did have an SRO come in and do a DARE program and those type of things.
Okay, yeah.
And they come in and they taught, okay, and then they left. The SRO that I'm talking about is in the building, can troubleshoot. You know, when we did have, it's gone away, but we had a surge of like vaping going on. He was able to kind of, when we confiscated the vape, he could put it in the thing, turn purple, there was something else in it and whatnot. It's great having that access, okay, to that. He's also wonderful at coordinating other little peripheral things that he does. He'll do, when we have open house or whatnot, he'll have a table and he'll be talking to people, you know, parents when they come in about those kind of issues, vaping and whatnot. Generally, I like to have students driving that as well, doing education on that, substances and whatever else. But one thing that's coming up in 2 weeks that we do every year that Phil takes the lead on with one of my health teachers is doing the mock car crash and really having a, we have funeral director come in and it's a great, he takes the lead on all of that. Gets the car in there, gets whatever. So having those type of peripheral things and those kind of life lesson things, it's great. But I will tell you, you have to have the right person.
Correct.
Okay, because it does come down to that, because I've known other SROs that think they are the sheriff, get a little too over one way or the other, and I've said, hey, that's not okay. Peers of mine have said, I had to stop it. And then they found the right person, okay? I know cities sometimes, because there's been talk, legislation in Massachusetts around this, and I know some of the urban schools use their SROs in a different way. I'm sure there's relationship building, but there's also kind of gang-related privacy issues that took over. I know that happened in Boston, in Brockton and so forth. So, but if there was ever a time where there was a question of advocating for an SRO, I would be there every day and twice on Sunday, whether it's at the school committee, town, state level, whatever it is.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah.
It's all about relationship.
Yes,
Yeah,
great.
got it.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you tell me a little about your innovation pathways program?
Sure.
And I'm reading all these great grants
Yeah.
that you were awarded.
Now, I'm gonna say something here. This is Michelle DeRusso, school committee member from Leiden, who also works for the town and is a master grant writer.
Wonderful.
And pulls in cash for the town. Just saying. Just saying.
Money.
She knows her way around the application.
So I was approached back in, I got the Shepherd Hill 2016. I knew they were looking for innovation, okay? So me and we had a STEM director at the time, partnered up and said, this is the way to go right now. And it was early then. They were only giving them out to a few schools. So I said, let's apply, let's kind of go through it. And they really want you to, during that process, I remember meeting with, Bob LePage at the State House and meeting with him. And they really want to hear how, if they grant you this, what are you doing and what populations are you going towards? So we said, well, there's not enough girls in STEM right now. That's going to be one of our target populations. We also want to talk about equity and how we can make this equitable to not only the girls, but also all students in the building, no matter what level they were at, okay? So we applied, went through the process. It was a long process, knowing that once we got that designation, it would open doors for these grants. Okay, that we didn't have access to otherwise. And schools just can't go and apply for one of these grants. You have to be an Innovation Pathways school. So once we get that designation, and they gave us some money to kind of get started, go some implementation money. So once we did it, we wrote every single year. And this was Baker's big thing, if you think about it. He wanted to really do this. So that year, we were one of 11 schools that did that. So we just kind of, and again, about relationships, I just started making relationships. at the State House and people that were doing this. So they got to know my name, where I was from, because on that application, that was the top of the line. And we were young, so they wanted to get us started. And I said, listen, I'm in a 50-year-old building. I need some capital to kind of make some improvements. So biomedical, okay, I think we're one of the only schools in the area that are running the whole cycle of those classes, okay? And again, that makes us a little more lucrative, so that kid that might want to go to the Voc school, I can go down and sell, hey, I got this, okay? Now, with one of those grants, I went and got a $100,000 virtual dissection table. Same one that's used at UMass Medical for medical students that my kids are now exposed to. Remember, my goal is to increase experiences and opportunities for kids inside and outside the classroom. So that is a great selling point, okay? But it's $100,000. I wouldn't be able to do it without that grant, okay? That was the one area. Then the other areas are manufacturing, engineering. Again, this is open to all students, okay? It's not just the top tier students that are really, with it. So we had a great wood shop. We still do. I appreciate that. I never want to get rid of that, because there's skills in there that we want to do it. But now we have a fabrication lab that's attached to it that has, I think we had $350,000 that year. And I went and I talked to this consultant. I said, what do I need? So I had probably every CNC machine that you could think of, a laser cutter, 3D printers, so on and so forth. So as a result of that, again, it makes us lucrative. It's almost identical to the one at Quinsigamond Community College, their fabrication lab. Okay. So again, I'm trying to loop things in. I will tell you, the hard part about that was convincing my community, parents and students, what manufacturing really was. Because for me, I automatically thought it was a dirty factory. No, it's because that's what I grew up in. Yeah. It's the opposite of that. They are cleaner than my house. They are white factories now. And so we had to get some community partners. We found one right down the street from the school called Gentex, an international company. They make lenses. Okay. So we went and met with them and said, hey, and I needed those partners in the application. So I had to go and find those partners before I even got approved. So I said, what do you, I asked the question, what if I could produce workers right out of high school that could come and work for you? Because they would have struggled to fill the positions. Number one, their manufacturing plant was aging out. People were retiring. And the people that were left there were very reluctant to work in the automation side of manufacturing now. So you walk in there, it was like Disneyland. Lenses are being dropped into a thing, there's a train track going around the whole place, and it's precision, okay? And you have to be able to work with that robotic arm that's going, whatever else. And a majority of the workforce was not, they were reluctant. Our kids today can whip out a phone and do whatever they need to do, okay? So I said specifically, what would my high school graduating student that might not be going to college, what would they need to come here and work right out of the gate? Because, well, when they come and apply here, we send them down to community college right at the border of Connecticut and Dudley, and they get these couple of certifications. I said, what if I could get them certifications while they're in high school? Because that would be great. I said, do you want to be a partner? I said, yeah. So COVID hit, kind of stalled things, okay? But we're building that momentum right now. So it's really about, for that type of student, being comfortable going down there. Part of the other part of the grant, part of that money I went and bought a great van to get those innovation pathway students to their internships. Okay, no questions asked. Okay, because I sold it that way. So again, we wouldn't have that if we didn't have that grant. So
it's been going for 3
since
years?
2008, 17, 18 when we started.
17, 18. So do you have any graduates that went into biomed?
Oh yeah. Well, so there's different trajectories. Okay, so remember I said 100 all students. So we have many students who go through that program. The other thing I'm going to share real quickly is that students that are going through the program, their junior year, if they're in their third class, which is called medical innovations, okay? No, medical interventions, and it's medical interventions. So when they're in the medical interventions class, we have a white lab coat day where they get their personal white coat about halfway through the year, and it's like doctors getting their assignment that day, okay? And that's a simple thing. I bought lab coats, embroidered some stuff on there. That builds momentum, okay? Those kids didn't miss school, didn't miss a lot of school, I can tell you that, okay? And so some of those kids were going into nursing, some of them were going into veterinary, some of them were going into biotech engineering and the kind of chemistry part of it. But I also had some students that were just exposed to it and liked the technical part of it. And they were going into maybe medical coding or other things. Okay, they weren't going to be a doctor. Some were going to be a doctor. Okay, they wanted to get that experience. And that sold parents and students that might have went somewhere else to come to Shepherd Hill. Same thing for manufacturing. You know, have to do a little bit more of a sell job with the parents around that. But that is a budding industry. You can make a career there and move up within that career. And again, they need people that are comfortable with automation. So we're looking at that, how we're going to evolve with that now. Because right now, all the pathways are being reviewed. They've never done this before. They started handing these out, and now they're going to go review and see where's your success been. So we're looking at that data right now in terms of who is that. But it's open to anybody. You know, we were successful in getting more females involved in STEM. Okay, one of the classes is about suturing and so forth, and had someone come from UMass. We had connections, and he would come in and practice suturing during one of the classes. It's exciting. Yeah, and I always take a picture and tweet it out. Okay, because it builds momentum. But I can talk about that in really any. I can talk about our business classes. Okay, Nichols is right up the street from us, Nichols College. So one of the things and again, I have great staff there that connected with Nichols, that probably used to work at Shepherd Hill, now they work at Nichols, so those connections. Our business classes, so our investments class, our entrepreneur class, when students go home in December and in May at Nichols, they have this $1 million, probably like this room, $1 million Bloomberg terminal that they invested in. So in December and in May, now my kids go up there and get an initial certification. They spend 2 days up there on that Bloomberg terminal. Okay, no one else is doing that. So those are the things that you gotta. And I wonder. I didn't come up with that. Teacher came to me and said, "Hey, what about I know this person did in Bloomberg? What if we just go and just show kids for an hour?" I said, "Yeah, go." I said, "But look at it. See how you can expand it. Is there a certification with that? Because there is a level of the world today that these little credentials that you get, okay, mean something. So how can you think creatively around that and do that? It's important to kind of keep that lens that way.
I think there's a lot we could do here. I have some.
Well, I think there's a lot you could too.
On the,
There's a TV station right down the hall there that we could use in a heartbeat during the day. It's totally student driven. Yeah.
Laura, go ahead.
It was just a great segue actually to my question. So you had a long day, you met a lot of people, you toured, you walked around the building, met students and staff, and if there were parents around, you've been around the area. So with this innovative lens, and you seem very motivated and excited about things,
yeah.
You already have had some things in your mind. You're looking around spaces that seem exciting to you, things on the grounds. If you don't mind sharing what I know, I can tell your wheels are turning already. So if you don't mind sharing some of the things that as you look around and meeting people and seeing things that excite you about us here.
I do think that space here is really, you have more space than I do at my school. Available space, put it that way. So there's some rethinking around that and how that can be utilized. There's some automatic thoughts I have about internships and industry-like experiences. Now, I would have to come out with this area and learn. I know farming, okay, I get it. But what are the other industries out there that are there? I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned to the students, and I mentioned to one of the groups that one of the things I didn't pull off, that I wish I did, that we're building some momentum right now is, why couldn't a student earn their drone license, their FCC license, during high school, during middle school? It's only hours. So I went, found a grant, $8,000, and about $8,000 worth of drones last year. Couple really good ones, couple medium ones, and about 8 or 9 low-level ones. Found the curriculum in California, that you could do. So why? That's a good start. because droning and being able to become with a drone is in so many industries. I had my roof redone, metal roof come in, and there's no ladders. They measured it with the drone. It's everywhere. So that's something automatically you could think of. Again, I have to learn, about, the early childhood, if there's any industry that we can connect to. I know this year we've done our best in terms of creating internships for our students that we know are going into education, okay? And we probably have a couple of handfuls of them right now. So finally, we started to, again, back to that master schedule, working in blocks, okay, where they can shoot to one of our elementary schools that's right down the road, and spend time in and really get a valuable experience, okay? Not to teach a class alone or anything, but get a valuable experience that they can go and say, in all these other areas I'm talking about, science, business, where they go and they're sitting next to their peer, first year of college, and their peer says, I never did that. I want my students that I'm involved with to say, I did that. And this is how it worked out, and I'm ready to do it again now. You know what I mean? So that's like off the top of my head. I could easily go into a biomedical, but the creativity and the focus, the why not focus, has to be around how you're going to manage the numbers, because that numbers matter when you're building a schedule and you're creating. You can't have singletons over there. And how do you create when you have 50 kids in this grade? How can you do that? It's not impossible. You just have to have a dialogue and get people in a room and just don't leave and just think totally outside the box. Something will get generated. Okay. I do think that the other thing I've seen successfully implemented was technology. Students in the building could be a center of technology within a system like this. Troubleshooting. At one point at King Philip, we had a team of tech students that just helped facilitate teachers learn better. And this is how you do it. You did it in half a second. The teacher's like, oh, slow down, show me again. And that built momentum. So those are just quick areas that I could think of. Manufacturing is a really important one, I think, because I think it's such an industry that's begging for people. Unfortunately, I'm not knocking both schools in any way, shape, or form. My daughter went to a both school. Not enough industry people are graduating from, or going into industry, graduating from both schools, or going to college. And that's a bigger nut to crack. In my area, we're doing, when we have our college fair, about 40 colleges come in our cafeteria, and our kids get out and they walk around. 3 years ago, before COVID, we started having industries. We had the carpenters union, the plumbers union, they were there as well, military people and so forth, to talk about those type of things. And we've drawn some people in there. Some of those singletons where a wood shop, we had one kid over my 6 years there that was so into architecture that we just kind of built his own little program once he became a junior. So those type of things you can do, okay? When you have low numbers like that, you just have to be able to take the risk and talk about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So hearing about all these programs and ideas for these kids and, eyes to the future and using that time that they have in school to build onto things. Do you have any experience, in the agricultural sense or environmental sciences, in the schools that you work in, just in the area that we are? It's kind of a natural thing here where we have access to so much stuff, so I'm just curious.
So over the years at Shepherd Hill, I have a unbelievable two teachers that run our Envirothon team. Okay, do you have an Envirothon team here? Anyone know?
Yeah.
No. So that's a team of people that go out and compete. Okay, they'll go to UMass, they'll go around, and there's a theme. Every year the theme is different. It could be water, it could be whatever. And very early on, I connected with him because I knew he would be the teacher that would say, can you have the custodians get the backloader and put a hole right here? Because I want my students to go in and look at instead of reading about soil in the book, I want them to go in there. Oh my God, I'm getting out of your way. Go in there. So that's expanded a little bit, where I went with him a couple of times with the Envirothon team to UMass when they were competing there and so forth. and I was taking a tour with some of the other adults, some of the students, and they were talking about how, at my school, 50-year-old building, the third floor can be 100 degrees, okay, during warm days. And they were talking about how they can do something for your roof and have plants up there and it cools it down 10, 20 degrees. So I kind of threw that out to it. You know that. You probably know the third
It's
floor.
the same way 25 years ago.
And we decided to explore that, okay? Saying, how do we do that? Okay. It never came to fruition because again, they think they're going to get a new building. I hope they get it now. I hope this is the year they get it. But those type of things, yeah, I loved, who was the teacher I saw today? Do you know who I saw?
John Heffernan in the technology.
No, she has all the
Oh,
bits.
Miss Poland.
I could have stayed in there for an hour because her energy level of doing what she was doing and having junk everywhere. And I said, what are you doing with this stuff? We're creating stuff. We're doing that. And she goes, I finally got a door right here out to there. Look what we're doing out here. I'm like, I'm getting out of your way too. I'm just gonna let you do your thing. That's exactly what that hands-on, that's what all the industry is about in terms of how you bring the industry into the classroom. And it's real world stuff that they can go and leave here with and thrive. That's the important part of it. So we just need more of that. We just need more of that in connection. And again, for the area, I'd have to look at. One of the big things in this state right now is cannabis, And my daughter's graduated from St. Mike's. A couple of weeks, she's gonna be an elementary teacher. My son's up at UMaine. Did I already say this? I didn't say it here. I'm sorry, I didn't say it here. I've said it probably 50 times. So my son's up at UMaine. He's in political science. And again, I just get out of their way too because they've found what their passion is. So these teachers I'm talking about that I've seen today, I've seen that passion here today. So that draws me here a little bit more too. And I'm like a magnet to those people. What do you need? The state came out and says, hey, we have some leftover money. You can leave that for education pathway schools. You can apply this year for another $30,000. So I think, got it. It was almost an automatic. And we went. It was for the biomedical, and they went and got an actual patient simulator that is computerized, that they can have experience drawing blood, doing whatever. But that helps my nurses in the nurse's office, helps my athletics in terms of the coaches. But the thing costs $29,000. All right, $30,000.
We're buying one of those with ARPA funds for EMS.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'll just put in a plug. Our EMS in Northfield is one of the few towns that does advanced paramedic, not basic life care. And I know that's always been a passion of his. It's like how to fill the ranks.
You can do that.
Yeah.
There's a school.
Planting the seed.
Yeah. I'm already thinking. I'm like, I know a guy in Ashby that went and their CTE school, which is a little different than an innovation pathway school.
Yeah.
They have a lot of money flowing to them. And he went and he bought something that literally was in the classroom. So it was here. It was the back of an ambulance. Came out to about right here.
Yeah.
And that was their simulator that they used.
Yeah. Well, we're buying one of those, those
Yes.
advanced ones for $29,000 because we have ARPA funds. So I put that on the list. It's not approved yet, but I put it on the list.
There's no reason why students can't be exposed to that and collaborate with that.
That would
On
be
many
a
levels.
partnership between.
Yeah.
We're doing it on one side of the river for what we need to do from a
Sure.
town government standpoint. It could easily be some overlap.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
So, same thing for TV production, same thing for student-driven work, real-life work.
Yes, well, we're at a crisis. I want to add to what Dee said. The small towns in Franklin County got a letter from EMS committee today that our local AMR, our local AMR, it might not be responding to the small towns. And a lot of small towns are going to be left with no ambulance service. So we might have to really start looking at regionalizing.
We've got a grant for
We should, ours is amazing.
We're very lucky to have it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, people don't realize that until you start learning. So that's why I like being in town and working on this side too, is because the more that you learn, similar to what you're describing with the teachers, the more we can go after, right? It's all about relationships plus collaboration at the right time. Yeah.
So I want to make sure, I know we're coming to the end, that you know about the Franklin County Regional Council of Governments.
Yeah,
Because FERCog,
yeah.
I don't know, so I'm from the eastern part of the state, and that's just so different.
Yeah.
FERCog is an amazing engine of collaboration, innovation, help with funding, managing stuff. I can imagine that FERCog would be so excited to collaborate with
Sure.
our district and this school and figuring out, oh gosh, the EMS stuff is challenging, Pioneer, can you start a pathway? So we've got kids.
We need.
FERCog stands ready.
Well, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I've been on the
I know you are.
for 25,
So,
30
but four
years.
towns, so Warwick is leaving, three remaining towns, you've got town one, town two.
And we're on
People
board,
right here.
Michelle and I, so.
I want to say,
There you
for
go.
instance, our towns stand, we are hungry for innovation. And that's not knocking
Yeah.
anything, no, we're hungry for innovation. I feel there's a deep desire to figure this out. How are we gonna keep our district healthy? What are we gonna build that's exciting, that brings young families into the district, that honors what we have?
Sure.
Honors our culture in these towns, honors our existing economy. The phrase I keep coming to is rural prosperity. How do we shift so that we think of our district as an actual engine of rural prosperity? Not just that we're taking the town's money and it's the bill, but rather we're generating money somehow. And we are looking for the person who will help be our partner and lead this piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
That's my plug.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, yeah, union members working with the unions, we got
Yeah.
all of it.
Sure.
Why don't we have the carpet, I mean, we've got space, we have outdoor space, we've got indoor space, this is a great facility.
Yeah.
We've got historical,
Oh,
the
gosh.
other thing about this area is it's really undisturbed for the most part relatively. This is such a rich, back in the 1700s, this was like the quote unquote frontier to the colonial settlers. Northfield was. So to me, I still look at it as that beacon, that attraction, because it's in this unusual spot. It's got all of the recreational, we've got tons of open space, we've got beautiful downtown, we've got surrounding towns where things are happening. So I'm totally on board with the rural prosperity idea, because I think there's just a lot of positivity and a lot of trajectory for economic development to be had. And the more that we can get that collaboration among the towns as well as the district, the more that's going to benefit everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's no reason why students can't get exposed to that, whatever the industry is,
Yeah.
a head start now while they're here. And even when I was talking to the students today, I had to keep reminding myself, it's 7 through 12 here. 7 through 12. That even makes it, and I asked the question, who are my 7th and 8th graders? Immediately when I did that, who are my 7th and 8th graders here? I said, who's staying in 9th grade? So there's probably 5 of them. 2, I think, said, we're going somewhere else. I said, why? Tell me why.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Yeah.
And not in a way, I said, I'm just curious,
Right.
They had their reasons, I don't think they were accurate, but they had their perception of what it was. We want to learn
better.
learn better, but no, she said, because of all the learning loss. I'm like, who are you talking to? No 8th graders talking to me about learning loss. I said, well, I want to be able to speed up my learning. I'm saying to myself, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
I can help you with that. But again, I'm not knocking any that. I knew I was going to get. That's why I asked the question. Because I always assumed that I have a friend who's a principal in an 8 through 12 school, probably about 400 kids in the school, and he's worked really hard to. He's reduced his kids going to vote by, I don't know, almost 50%, which is great. And the Vogue school down the road is really upset with him around that. And again, he made the decision hard the way he did. The other thing I was to add is I'm a big believer in blurring the lines between grade 11 and grade 14. There has to be collaboration between community colleges and whatnot. We've done that. And I couldn't do that alone in my school, but I got 5 or 6 of my peers, principals together in my area, and we started a Southern Worcester collaborative coalition for Queen City Community College. So I couldn't fill a class, but between the 5 and 6 of us, we filled the class. And kids were leaving with 3 credits, not just the AP, but my goal was to have every kid leave with college credit, no matter who you are. But that's another area that I think needs to be looked at in terms of how we're collaborating with those type of it was, for me, Quinn Sig was hungry for it. Nichols was hungry for it right up the road. But it was the quality of it that I really
I think our community college will be.
Is it great?
It's a great school.
Yeah. They're wonderful. And they've been getting some focus the past couple of years in terms of, they're kind of sometimes the forgotten ones. But, they're getting much better, much better.
So at Northfield Town meeting the other night, we have the Northfield Area Travel and Business Association, got up and talked in response to some warrants. There is so much exciting work that could happen with our students in relation, I'm gonna go again to rural prosperity. I mentioned the Shell Bridge renovation. Why can't we put a group of our kids and teachers on, develop a plan for a pedestrian and bike pathway from the bridge terminus in West Northfield up to this campus. Like, that's the work of them right there. That involves ecology, environment, transportation, planning. We've got a downtown in Northfield, we've got stuff we've got 2 towns with no stores. We could sick our kids on real life work that would have a real impact on their families, on their little brothers and sisters. And it could make our staff so happy, right?
For years, they talked about trying to do a wetlands boardwalk in that area. For instance, over there, sort of, Depot Street there's a wetlands area, and, it went flat. But, just coming up with ideas, for those kinds of things, including students.
And there's a Mass Trails grant that I'm looking into for Leiden right now, but the deadline is like June 15th.
Oh. It's okay because there will be more
Next year
grants.
there will be.
It's about developing energy, identifying leaders, saying we're gonna have this year-long conversation in relation to a facilities master plan. Who do we wanna be? What are our options and how are we gonna choose what direction we wanna go in? Again, this is my selling job, right?
Yes, it's a lot.
I just love the
I
idea
just
of the
so
kids
much-
having some hands-on experience with that
Yes,
kind of stuff, so that it's not like that's what people do in the real world, or that's what I'll do sometime in
And
the
that's how
future.
they value their
It's like,
education, and that's how they build, a relationship with their school.
Yep.
And get motivated and stay and gain something in the future out of it.
And I can do this.
And pride in where they grew up. Because you're connecting to.
Trying to figure out what they want to do in life.
So when we're renovating the website this summer, right? Let's bring in some of our students. The Portland Public Schools in Portland, Maine has a beautiful, they've had a header. They interviewed middle-aged and older graduates of the Portland, Maine Public Schools. They've got gorgeous black and white photos and captions of what the schools meant to those graduates those decades ago. Our kids, you could, right? It's like, we have it's a beautiful fruit tree. We can pick the ideas. We need someone who's gonna work with us.
And silly things, like even last year, I remember listening to my daughter and a group of our friends sitting around saying, we were someplace and there was a Starbucks, and oh, I love this stuff. There should be a Starbucks in the school, or just a coffee shop. We can make, like, they were designing a little coffee shop where they could put those little things that if they have those ideas, why not try to put them into action and have students run it? And, it's just those simple things
Get out of their way.
Right.
Yeah, sounds good.
This
Go ahead,
is during
do it.
COVID time, so that's definitely, but yes, those are the kinds of things that, why not? Let's look into it, let's explore it, let's,
Great.
very exciting stuff.
Excellent. I want to honor your time. I want to honor
Thank
everyone's
you.
time. It's 7:10.
Sorry.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
It's a great
Thank
day.
you. Great job.
Great day.
Wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, thank you folks at home for joining us. I've gotten texts from a few folks. Oh, good. Watching at home.
They were watching.
Yeah.
Cool.
What are you doing? Thank you so much. Oh, I didn't know that. Bill, to let you know, maybe folks can introduce themselves and share your relationship with the district.
Sure. Stephanie Winslow, school committee member, Northfield Rep.
Ray Daston, I'm a school committee member and a Northfield rep, and I also have 2 children in the district.
You already know being shelter is so important. I'm on the school committee. I'm a grandmother. My children are all grown up. But I'm very much, still interested in our future
Sure.
generation and
That's what we do.
providing quality
Right.
education.
I'm a resident of Leiden. I have 2 children here in the district. One is a freshman here. And COVID time has been tough, coming out of that. And I have a son who is going to be a 7th grader here next year. So this is very exciting stuff to talk about for me. I also teach at one of the elementary schools.
And I'm Bijak, I'm on the select board for the town of North.
Now, listen, I was on the school committee in my town for a bunch of years. Thankfully, it wasn't now, because the school committee has been beaten up for the past, 18 months. But those are hard, challenging times, but it's rewarding too. Great.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. If you could fill out the lavender colored form before you go, that would be wonderful.